You can't consume what isn't being produced. Productive credit that would flow to every man, woman, and child through what we call capital homesteading.
Okay.
First, it starts very slow because if it was done on credit, as we're suggesting, it takes time to pay off each year's allotment of $7,000.
Right, sure.
But they would have received $1.6 million of dividend incomes. Now, how many people listening to this program will be able to accumulate $1.6 million dividends over and above whatever they earn?
Especially off of a $7,000 initial investment.
That's right.
I mean, so you're saying this $7,000 productive credit. Productive credit, where will that come?
That's a great question. And you just have to understand what money is. Money is anything that can use to settle a debt. It's not just currency, coin, and paper money. No. The way it comes is the way it came in the past and still comes to a large extent, and that is through what's called bills of exchange. You want to borrow $7,000, you have to show that if you use that to buy newly issued stock, and that stock, the company would have to pay out the dividends fully because they would get a tax deduction by paying out dividends, as they do for worker employee stock ownership plans.
Mm-hmm.
Be tax deductible. So you get to the full stream of corporate profits to pay off that loan. So they get a loan to buy shares of stock that are full voting, full dividend bearing stock, and the dividends pay for the shares plus any transaction fees, and thereafter that dividend incomes flow to the child or to the individual, to the American, through the capital homestead account at their local bank. It's just a super IRA. Okay?
Well, yeah, I mean, but the whole notion of productive credit, productive credit, for me, kind of a new concept. Productive credit meaning that it will be used to invest.
To invest. Not speculate, to invest.
To invest in something tangible.
Tangible that will generate real marketable goods or services.
Right.
You see, call them energy slaves. We want to liberate the human slaves.
Yes, indeed.
And enable people to be owners of energy slaves so that the fruits of the energy slaves, which are not people, can help provide them the income, earn an income to buy whatever the energy slaves or the market system is capable of producing. So this becomes not just a free market system, not just a system based on property, but a system where everybody is put in a position where they can become owners. And this is what America should have been, was intended to be by many of the founders, and must become as a model for all countries in the world.
Amen. Dr. Curlin, we're not done yet. Give us another moment or two. We're going to take a brief break right here, and we'll come back and we're going to spend some more time with you and share more with our listeners on this Just Third Way model. And we want to talk more specifically about, how the unemployed how the poor would benefit from this proposed Capital Homestead Act.
Very good.
Thank you. Go right ahead, Dr. Curlin. You're on.
Right. The key is to grow the economy, to be able to produce more, and to be able to export more. Not just, we used to be a big exporter. Now, back in the 40s, during the war, we went from massive unemployment, high levels of unemployment, 15 to 20%, to 25%, to zero unemployment. Well, first of all, because we put about 16 million able-bodied people into the military to fight a two-front war, and there was no unemployment. the economy grew by rates of 15% a year. Now, 15% is fast growth. So there was no unemployment. They took people who were unemployed, unemployable, they trained them right on the jobs. And we were able to add new technologies, very advanced technologies for war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I say that once you solve the financing problem, get it away from Wall Street to Main Street, so that every person could get an allotment of credit necessary to finance growth at rates higher than today. Today it may be 1% or less. Now, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly should be able to grow 5 and maybe 10%, and finance that growth through capital homesteading.
Okay.
And if we did that, the numbers I gave you would be very conservative.
Wow.
I was just looking at modest growth rates.
Sure.
Now, if you had higher growth rates, the economy, entrepreneurs, corporations would go out and reach out to people. You'd be able to finance the pensions of teachers and policemen and public servants and others who are getting pensions now that go into costs. Well, they wouldn't go into costs now, you see, because you would be connecting people up to the growth capital, the productive capital, through productive credit, not non-productive credit. So you would be moving toward a more sustainable economy. We'd be able to not only through our tax system balance the budget of the federal government and the local governments and state governments, and they're all getting into trouble. But you'd be able to finance the productive sector, making every citizen an owner of private sector capital. This goes beyond capitalism. It goes beyond socialism. Capitalism is a system based on greed and taking advantage of people, exploitation of people. Yes, it has a market system, but it is not a just market system. And socialism is not the answer, because that does not connect every citizen into ownership. It puts the government into the position, the politicians into the position of being able to control people's income.
Concentration of wealth and power.
You got it.
Continues.
It's monopolization. It's control, and that's not good.
No.
If you concentrate power, you're going to lead to corruption. But what we're talking about is a true democratization of power through the democratization of finance and money power. As a matter of fact, we would say that the Federal Reserve shouldn't be owned by the bankers.
Right.
And it shouldn't be owned by the Treasury Department.
Right.
Rather, every one of the 12 regional feds ought to be owned by the citizens in that area. Just turn it over to the citizens so that money power would be under the control of the people.
And you can tell that was the intent of the people who created our Constitution. It's supposedly a government by the people, for the people, and of the people.
Exactly, and that's what we have to see. We have to have a rebirth of America, but a more just America than they had when the founding fathers put together the Constitution. You see, and there every person is important. The inalienable or God-given rights of people, and the right to be an owner. That's built into our wiring system. We'd rather own than be owned.
That's right. Why are we looking at passing this Capital Homestead Act by 2012?
Well, it's interesting. 150 years ago, it will be 150 years in 2012. It was the Homestead Act by Lincoln, and that was the Homestead Act of 1862. So we think that to save America, before it goes further down the hole into bankruptcy, that we need that full-blown Capital Homestead Act, because that reaches out into a new frontier. The Homestead Act of 1862, as you know, was for land.
Right.
And 60 acres of land, and if they farmed it for 5 years, they were given legal title. This was a very, very important piece of economic legislation. It helped build the farm base, the agricultural base, the food production base of America. And no piece of legislation was more important in terms of where we are today. The problem was the land was not enough, because the land is a limited frontier.
Right.
We're talking about technology.
Yeah.
And there's no limit to the technology frontier. And that's what people should be owning. The rentable space, the robots, the energy slaves of all kinds, the infrastructure. We can design that. And it has been designed. If people want to know what we're talking about, all they have to do is visit the website of CESJ.org, and they'll just look at capital homesteading, the summary of the Capital Homestead Act. We even have a book which they can download free, Capital Homesteading for Every Citizen. And then you have this new movement, which is a global movement called the Coalition for Capital Homesteading.
Very familiar with. In fact, even in our little state of Connecticut, we have our own chapter in Waterbury, the Waterbury Center for Economic and Social Justice, which is fast becoming the talk of the town. And so
it's great.
Yeah, we're excited. We're really excited.
Well, I'm and clearly I like to see Connecticut, having been born and raised there, becoming one of those states that teach the rest of the states of the Union. It could become the first capital homesteading state in the Union, and by being the model, it can have our Capital Homestead Act passed by next year, 2012. And incidentally, the people in Waterbury set up the meeting where I met with Senator Lieberman, I met with Senator Blumenthal, and also through
Congressman Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy is.
And Chris Murphy will be running for Senate. So
that's great news.
We have made our inputs. We had great meetings with the senator and their staff. As far as I'm concerned, it's now time for the White House and all these people who are trying to figure out how to save the American economy, what kind of changes. We have those changes. Now it's up to the people who are listening to this program, first to find out the specific by going to the websites, and then getting in touch with their representatives, because there's no question in my mind that when the American people start demanding it, their political leadership will follow.
Absolutely. Dr. Curlin, we want to thank you for joining the broadcast this morning. We have been talking to Dr. Norm Curlin from the Center for Economic and Social Justice, one of the architects of the Just Third Way. We have solutions to these problems of desperation and desolation in our country. They just need to be embraced. We're going to continue to do our part, Dr. Curlin, and we pray that the Lord of the harvest would bring laborers into the vineyard, because truly the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few.
Thank you, Russ.
Dr. Curlin, thank you so much for joining us.
You see, and there every person is important. The inalienable or God-given rights of people, and the right to be an owner. That's built into our wiring system. We'd rather own than be owned. That when the American people start demanding it, political leadership will follow. You can't consume what isn't being produced, and finance that growth through capital homesteading.
This economy has stopped growing. The death of the economy is the first step in the death of a civilization.